are you?
Moo.
Where did you came from?
Aya. Hmm? 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 Ayas. Ayas.
What is your purpose in life?
Mommy.
Mommy. Where will you go after you die?
Mommy then.
Mommy de. Who are you?
Rafa.
Where did you come from?
Ayas.
Yes. What is your purpose in life?
Daddy.
Why daddy?
Because I love daddy.
Uh-huh. Where will you go after you die?
Heaven.
Okay.
Hi everyone, I'll be recording this video so that you can watch this anytime that your internet is available. Okay, so our lesson for today is the worldviews around us. So we have four major worldviews today. The first one is atheistic materialism. The second one is Hinduism, Buddhism, and New Age thinking. So we will combine them because they have some similarities. Number 3 is postmodernism, and 4 is Christianity. So what is atheistic materialism? Nowadays, they are declining in numbers, the atheists. So what are their beliefs? In reality, this material universe is what is really real for them. So as Carl Sagan, astrophysicist and popularizer of science, puts it, the cosmos is all that is or all that ever will be. The present scientific view of how the universe came into being, now taught in major universities worldwide, is that it all came into existence with a big bang some billions of years ago. The atheists would say this was initiated by some physical process as yet unknown even up to now. So when I was in grade 1, I've learned that there's other beliefs than the Bible, and that is the Big Bang Theory. About humans, human consciousness and intelligence developed from chemicals by a long process of chance evolution. Personality developed from impersonal hydrogen atoms, wherein God is the DNA code, says Timothy Leary. So we are all the products of matter, time, and chance alone. That's it. So how do we know things for atheists? Knowledge is the result of physical processes in our brains. A problem here was well expressed by Professor Haldane as follows. If my mental processes are determined wholly by the motion of atoms in my brain, I have no reason to suppose that my beliefs are true, and hence I have no reason for supposing my brain to be composed of atoms. If my self-awareness, intelligence, and ability to make choices is something more than just the movement of atoms in my brain, then according to the materialist view, this self-awareness has somehow come about only as the result of physical processes. Something like that. For meaning, as there is no intelligent being who planned it all, life only has what meaning we humans choose to give it. Okay, so some would give it no meaning. Samuel Beckett's play Breath is a 35-second play that has no human actors. The props are a pile of rubbish on the stage, lit by a fight which begins to dim, brightens but never fully, and then recedes to dimness. There are no words, only a recorded cry opening the play, an inhaled breath, an exhaled breath, and an identical recorded cry closing the play. For Beckett, life is such a breath. Something like that. So they put meaning to life by what they want. How about death? Death is the end of our personal existence. Blotto, human destiny. Ernest Nagel confesses in Naturalism Reconsidered, an episode between two oblivions. That's it. That's about death. Morality and values, right and wrong, are merely what we decide for ourselves as humans. either individually or in groups, but usually it is the majority decision that wins the day. How about history? History has no ultimate purpose. We have to make the most of what we have got. In the end, this planet will certainly burn up or freeze, and that will be the end of everything. So that's for the atheistic materialism. So maybe some of you have this thought in you or have this belief. So you see, if we have some of this, that means you are on this side. Your worldview is on the atheistic side. How about number 2, Hinduism, Buddhism, and New Age thinking? So in this worldview, the focus tends to be on self, how we can improve ourselves. A typical statement from a popular New Age magazine says, all paths lead to God. The true path finally becomes self-empowerment, the path of self-love. Then one demonstrates that they can manifest God and no longer need to look outside themselves for this information. They have become the path themselves. Parang you become like God, something like that. It is simplistic to lump Hinduism and Buddhism together, but they do have certain basic beliefs in common. New Age thinking tends to be an adoption of some of these Eastern beliefs to Western culture. That's why we will discuss them all together. So reality, everything is God. We all share the same essence or stuff or reality, which is spirit. Hinduism is the Brahman, Buddhism is Nirvana. This philosophy of the unity of all things has been called monism. So the basic philosophy of New Age thinking has been summed up in 3 pithy things or sayings. All is God, all is one, and all is well. I know some of you have watched is that the 3 Idiots? That they always sing, all is well, something like that. So they have this kind of thinking. So the New Age concept of God is impersonal, usually described as force, energy, essence, consciousness, vibration, principle, or being. I personally have encountered some people who believe on these things, and it affects their decision making, of course, or their behaviors, of course. About matter? This material world is unreal, a sort of fantasy or dream of some kind. The realized soul understand that this world means nothing and is of no value. Ultimately, salvation consists in escaping from matter. New Agers tend to put a little more value on this world than do Hindus and Buddhists. About humans, we are one with God. Our unity with all reality is emphasized. Individual personality is underplayed. Okay? About meaning. Meaning in life comes through realizing who we are in our oneness with the divine spirit. There are no criteria for judging true from false religious experience. I believe tends to become I feel. So how do they know the truth? Our significant learning comes from withdrawal from the world, looking within, getting in touch with our real selves, the divine within. Hinduism, Buddhism, and New Age share a distrust of reason. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the ultimate is unknown and unknowable. It is neti, not this, not that. Okay? So that's the way they know the truth. For morality, sin is merely ignorance of the true nature of reality. Ignorance. We need enlightenment, not repentance. Suffering rather than evil is seen as our major problem, and much of Hindu and Buddhist philosophy is a response to this. For some, there is no objective standard of right and wrong. As one spiritual sage from India put it, it's not a question of whether you are good or bad. Good and bad are relative. They are two sides of one coin, part of the same whole. In a similar vein, Carl Frederick wrote in Playing the Game the New Way, you are the supreme being. There isn't any right or wrong. New Age guru Shirley MacLaine's philosophy, along with that of many other New Agers, could be summed up as, if it feels good, do it. So you see, if you have heard some people saying this, Their belief is New Age or Hinduism, Buddhism. How about death? We die only to be reborn in a continuous cycle of rebirth or incarnation. In our next life, we will endure the consequences of our behavior in this one, the Eastern doctrine of karma. If we succeed in progressing in the steps of enlightenment, we will eventually escape this cycle into nirvana, where individual personality will be absorbed into complete oneness with ultimate reality, like a wave being absorbed back into the ocean. Much of Buddhism denies the personal nature of God. New Age thinkers tend to be a little more optimistic about our continuous advance in this process than the Hindus and Buddhists. Okay? So if you have heard, especially in some Korean novellas, about reincarnation or being reborn again, something like that, so their belief is on this side of worldview. Hinduism, Buddhism, and New Age thinking. About history, because we are caught up in this constant cycle of rebirth, history has little meaning. Eastern religion tends not to understand the world in terms of purpose. As someone has said, there is movement and change without involving the idea of purpose. Now let's go to the third one, postmodernism. Postmodernism is a term used by sociologists and others to describe a way of thinking that has become very pervasive right now in our time, in our world, in the Western world over the last generation. It is an approach to reality that is having a significant effect in almost everything right now, on literature, theater, art, education, psychotherapy, law, science, architecture, the study of history, and people's view of religion. Its origins are found in the philosophies of Nietzsche, Heidegger, Marx, and Freud. On some points, particularly its attitude to truth, it is similar to New Age thinking. As a way of thinking, it can hardly be described as a worldview, as one of its tenets is that there is no longer any one big story that is able to make sense of our little stories. In other words, actually for them, worldviews are out. No? But then we still believe that nowadays this is one of the worldviews. So postmodernism, about reality, we all create our own reality. God tends to be ignored should he or she exist. He certainly has nothing to say about what we should believe or how we should behave. That's their belief. Truth and reason, there is no absolute truth. New Age guru Shirley MacLaine holds a typical postmodern perspective. In Out on a Limb, she asked David, her spiritual guide, if he believes in reincarnation. He replies, "It's true if you believe it, and that goes for anything." As Wheaton College professor Roger Lundin explains in The Culture of Interpretation in Postmodernism, all principles are preferences and only preferences. As a result, they are nothing but masks for the will to power. Postmodernism is distrustful of all authority and dogmatism. It often recasts the Enlightenment's sacred cows of reason and science as tools of oppression. Feminist scholar Sandra Harding complains that science embodies a male-centered view that is culturally coerced. Emotions, feelings, intuition, reflection, magic, myth, and mystical experience are now center stage. I know has been replaced by I feel. There is a bluffing of the difference between ourselves and the real world out there. The postmodern aversion to truth is well expressed by Alan Bloom in The Closing of the American Mind, The Danger. What is the danger is not error but intolerance. Relativism is necessary to openness, and this is the virtue, the only virtue which all primary education for more than 50 years has dedicated itself to teaching. Openness and the relativism that makes it the only plausible stance in the face of various claims to truth and the various ways of life and kinds of human beings is the great insight of our time. The true believer is the real danger. Sigmund Freud had described this outcome with glaring precision nearly 100 years ago. Fundamentally, we only find what we need and only see what we want to see. We have no other possibility. Since the criterion for truth, correspondence with the eternal world, is absent, It is entirely a matter of indifference what opinions we adopt. All of them are equally true and equally false, and no one has the right to accuse anyone else of error. Someone has said that we have now moved from the conviction that everyone has a right to his own opinions to the notion that every opinion is equally right. So meaning, there's no right or wrong. What you feel, that's it. A good summary of postmodern thinking is given by Os Guinness in Fit Bodies, Part 9, where modernism was a manifesto of human self-confidence and self-congratulation. Postmodernism is a confession of modesty, if not despair. There is no truth, only truths. There are no principles, only preferences. There is no grand reason, only reasons. There is no privilege, civilization, only a multiple of cultures, beliefs, periods, and styles. There is no grand narrative of human progress, only countless stories of where people and their cultures are now. There is no simple reality or any grand objectivity of universal, detached knowledge, only a ceaseless representation of everything in terms of everything else. In sum, postmodernism is an extreme form of relativism. Okay, so what is okay to you? And then that's it. So let's move on. What are the beliefs of postmodernism? For religion, postmodernism does not rule out religion as did modernism, with its emphasis on human reason. However, the religions that are approved are very different from Christianity. You may believe what you want to, go for what makes you feel good. Religion is cafeteria style. You choose what you like from what is spread in front of you and put a meal together that suits your taste. So there are strong links with paganism, actually. For morality, all moral values are relative. Each person or culture develops their own moral values. The important question is not, is it right? But what will it do for me? There is a strong emphasis on the fact that we are shaped by our culture and a consequent diminishing of personal responsibility. In postmodernism, we have tolerance. Tolerance of other views is one of the pillars of postmodernism. However, there is one group of people to whom this tolerance is not extended, those who believe truth to be important. So this intolerance is especially directed to those who think others might be wrong. Postmodern analyst Frederick Turner, for instance, in The Future of the Gods, notes toward a postmodern religion calls for tolerance and syncretism, mixing different religions together. Yet in the same article, he calls evangelical Christianity a junk religion. So meaning, these people with postmodernism view, it's okay for them if you just dive in with them, you don't have any right or wrong. But then if you are a person who believes that there's right or wrong, then we cannot tolerate you, something like that. Individualism, there's a strong emphasis on individualism. In the American court case Planned Parenthood v. Casey, in justifying the abortion license, the court declared that it is up to each individual to determine the concept of existence, of meaning, of the universe, and of the mystery of human life. So, like that. History, there is much rewriting of history. What really happened is either unknowable or unimportant. A sad symptom of this is seen in a survey indicating that 33% of Americans subscribe to the view that the Holocaust, the killing of 6 million Jews by the Nazis during World War II, may never have happened. So they also have their own history. What they believe, something like that. So let's move on with the fourth one, Christianity. Or some would point this as biblical worldview. So there is one God of infinite wisdom, holiness, and power who has existed eternally. God is personal and exists within himself as three persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, that have always existed in a love relationship. About matter, the universe is the creation of this God and is dependent on him for its existence. It had a beginning and in its present form will have an end. Matter is real and good. God himself shared in created human nature in the person of Jesus Christ. Though God maintains the created universe, he is distinct from it. He himself is beyond space and time. Like humans, God has created humans in his own likeness with self-consciousness, freedom to make choices, moral accountability, intelligence, and spiritual qualities that enable us to relate personally to him. His desire is that we should enter into the loving relationships that already exist within the persons of the Divine Trinity and enjoy fellowship with him, both in this life and through eternity. We have messed things up by our waywardness, but he has acted in Jesus Christ to restore that fellowship. About death, we exist beyond death, either in a relationship with God or without him, depending on choices we have made in this life. Because the material creation matters to God, our bodies will be resurrected at Christ's second coming, though in a transformed state similar to Christ's resurrected body. How do we know the nature of reality? God has given us intelligence, which he expects us to use, whether in our understanding of the universe or our knowledge of him. However, our moral perversity affects our ability to think clearly, especially when it comes to truth about spiritual matter. Truth about God, the meaning of life and death, and such matters come to us by revelation. We have what we call special revelation and general revelation. Later on, we will learn about that. In other words, God reveals this truth to those humble enough to receive it. Morality, because God is perfectly good, he created humans with the same qualities of moral goodness. However, humans have misused the freedom given them, and our moral natures have become warped. Our goodness is tainted with sin, and this affects our relationship with God, whose justice demands the condemnation of evil. So since he is a just God, there must be a condemnation of evil. About history, God makes his purposes known in history. It is his story. He has made himself known by his actions in history and by revealing himself to chosen individuals, and particularly by entering the world in the person of Jesus Christ. History had a beginning and will culminate in the return of Jesus Christ, whom he has appointed as judge of the human race. God will ultimately create a new heavens and a new earth in which his people will live eternally in a loving and joyful relationship with him. So that's the reference, and that's the end of our PowerPoint presentation. So, as we finish this video, I want you to contemplate what is your beliefs, what is from this four, what is your worldview. If you have noticed that you have mixed up worldviews, then later on we will study on how do we prove or how do we know if our worldview is correct. Okay, but I like the answers in our quiz, and that gives me an idea that some of you knows it very well how to prove, but then most of you are still in a state of confusion how really to prove if your worldview is correct or not. So as for this week, this is for now, and please read the announcement that I'll be posting. God bless you guys. Bye-bye.